capital formation is been not robust for sure. There's more money out there than there are good deals, and you find that out from talking to VCs, family offices.
Mm-hmm.
The other, challenge is to raise.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Richer Geek Podcast. Today we have Daniel Barnard. He's AAMS, whatever that is. We'll let him explain that. But imagine, do the impossible. He's a podcast host of CapitalFit, the creator of CapitalFit, the company. He's an experienced business builder, investor, C-suite advisor, marketing and branding, passionate about health, MedTech solutions, biohacking, supplements, mindset, and all things capital. How you doing, Dan?
Mike, I'm doing fantastic. It is a pleasure to be on your show. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm grateful. So thank you.
You're welcome. Well, it's been a long time coming. We're doing some business together. We've known each other for a little bit now.
Yeah.
So it's about time we get you on so we can talk about a little bit about your business. So before we get into it, tell us a little about your background. How did you get to the point where you created CapitalFit and all that you do?
Great question. Thank you. Well, after graduating Iowa State, go Cyclones in 1990, I jumped into commercial real estate in Chicago. I was fortunate enough to be in the last trainee class of JMB Realty, big firm on Michigan Avenue. They owned every food group in real estate, including Canary Wharf in London, which before it became what it is today. It was just swampland, and it was just a dream back in the 90s. I had dreamed of actually getting over there, but 4 years in the company, they moved me to 4 different cities. We had a commercial real estate recession globally, thanks to the 1986 tax, Real Estate Tax Act, that kind of crushed a lot of the passive loss rules, and the economics of commercial real estate imploded. It was corporate America, right? It was great training. My company moving to San Francisco, they owned the Silverado Country Club and the winery. So, the regional meetings were up there, and here I am, the kid out of college, Iowa State, and I'm in the middle of wine country at 23. It was a lot of fun. I loved, dress the part. I loved, wearing suits and helping out commercial real estate. I learned leasing, tenant improvements. I learned what asbestos was. Oh my gosh. You had one part per billion, asbestos. It had to get removed from that office before it was TI'd out. Right. And so I learned that industry. I learned that when you're with a company like that and they sell their company to Heitman Properties and your property gets sold, then you're at the whim of them. I was a finance major, worked for 2 finance professors at Iowa State. I was sort of a TA, professor assistant, cut my teeth, did the AT&T sort of, dial in and call in your stock portfolio, did pretty well with that, believe it or not, back in the day. So I decided to get my series 6, 7, 63, 65, and 94, 95, 96. And then that career, building a practice with individuals, 100 families, 3 partners, 2 assistants, that ran for 25 years, 6 years ago, due to a health kind of condition that I had, and just stress and needing to focus on my son. 6 years ago, I decided to sell my client list. It was hard at the time. It was difficult. There was some regret, but I am where I am today because of that. It opened up my mind. It is, you talk about a biohack, sell your business for 25 years and then try to reinvent yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I've spent 6 years reinventing myself, meeting great people like you who are aligned with, passion, purpose, alignment with God, and attracting great people in the MedTech space, wellness space. I've been on this sort of health kick the last 3+ years. My co-host, Dr. Rick Jacoby, author of Sugar Crush and the new book Unglued, has taught me so much about sugar, health, carbs, and how to unglue yourself with stem cells, which I've used twice on my left knee to keep me going, skiing and pickleball. So it's this private equity space. You've been building
Mm-hmm.
hotels, and you've done phenomenal things. When I meet people like you, I'm like, gosh, I just haven't done a whole lot in my life. I hear your story. I'm like, wow, Mike, your podcast is crushing it. I've had my podcast since July of last year. Rick and I started our co-host each other's podcast. I've done 60 episodes. It's been a lot of fun. We talk about a lot of the similar things, interviewing founders, funders, change makers, so, influencers, and talking about their stories. And, the passion that I have here is to bend the curve on glucose, diabetes, and the company I've been really helping out here the last year and a half, MedWatch Technologies.com, looking to launch the first continuous glucose monitoring wearable in the world that does not use a needle. Not only will it measure glucose, it'll measure ketones, lactates, blood oxygen, proteins, and on and on. They have the platform. The test results are accurate. It's been an exciting run to help them out. And that's been my biggest project here. And of course, I've had a project down in Tombstone helping with a vineyard and a tiny home and RV park down there the last 6 years. I think I told you a little bit about that. Of course, projects like that have ups and downs, right?
Well, they do. It's regulations, cities. I mean, just everything like that. But so you're talking about these different things that you're helping. How do you exactly help these? What is Capital Fit?
CapitalFit is really a collection of a mastermind group, and I'm a connector. I'll come in as a consultant, get the company ready for a prime time to receive, to get investor ready. Do they have the right, pitch, the right document? Is it a safe note, convertible? Introduce them to angel groups here in town, Phoenix, Scottsdale area, the ones I know in the Bay Area, make introductions. I was able to help them with a referral of now the gentleman's become their in-house counsel. He was a fractional attorney. I knew him, connected. He's done a fantastic job. The executive assistant, I just was able to refer over, and she's been with the team here for the last 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And as the company ramps up for its Series A round, closing out its pre-Series A bridge round, we're closing out and getting ramped up for the much larger Series A round. So she came in at the right time. It just seems like the timing has been perfect when I bring in the right people at the right time. And so it's been a nice ride with them. Great team. It's probably one of the most exciting teams, most complete, authentic teams of a startup I've ever worked with the last 6 years. So I've been, I feel like I'm very fortunate.
Yeah, good for you. So, it sounds like if some of our listeners, a lot of tech people out there, a lot of fintech, a lot of MedTech, there are people, entrepreneurs that are listening right now. Are you that, if they need to raise a certain amount of capital or they need help, how do you raise capital with maybe the pitch deck and getting introduced to the right type of people? You're that middleman, or your group, CapitalFit, is that person that where they could actually kind of come to and say, hey, it's kind of like with me. Hey, I need to raise $3 million, for my next hotel.
That's
I
right.
need your help, or something like that. That you are that person that brings what we call the founders, which is people like me.
Right.
And you're the bridge between the founder and the limited partner or the joint venture person.
That's right.
You're the connector.
I'm the connector. In the case of MedWatch, there's a gentleman who knows the health ministers of Singapore, Malaysia, Japan, and we were able to put together a distributorship agreement, and I've done that with 2 companies. So I just, it's a unique position that I'm in, and I don't know how it happens, but it just seems to happen at the right time. I do pray, meditate, think intentionally, write out my goals. Whiteboard a lot of stuff. When I come onto a project, I really try to be very intentional, draw in that energy and the right connections at the right time. And it seems to have worked the last couple of years. I've kind of honed in on that ability to do that, and looking forward to helping you out as well as we, work together. And you got a really interesting project overseas I'm excited about. And it's really just getting the right people at the right time to to look at it and, just tell them there's only a moment of time where you can kind of get in and and get in on this opportunity. And whether you want to come in as an investor or as an ambassador of sorts or a social influencer, there's a lot of different ways that people can help now with social media and the internet. Not just here's my check, but here's my network. And a gentleman here in town that runs a 1,000 affiliate company that helps with travel, and he's got 1,000 affiliates around the world, and they buy into his system, and they can help people get travel and vacation. So I definitely want him to connect with you. You probably know, I won't tell you who he is, but we'll connect with him at some point. So that's this kind of people. I do a lot of networking here in town. I have for 33 years. I had to build, a business of clientele, and you do that one person at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Now talk about, you're that connector, and there's a lot of different ways that someone that maybe have a blossoming fintech company or an idea. What are some of the different capital raising strategies, depending on what type of entrepreneur is, out there? But what do you see? I know there's JV, there's angel investing. What are some of the capital raising strategies that you could talk about to give our listeners an idea of what's out there?
I think one of the most common is the crowdfunding route. And, when a startup comes to me, they, usually, hopefully they've had some friends and family that believe in them. That's really the first kind of hurdle. How much have you raised? How much money do you have in it yourself? Are you bootstrapping it? Do you have actual cash into it? Have your friends and family invested? Number one. Number two is, what is the strategy? Whether you're at an incubator group, accelerator group, like Techstars, like the incubator accelerator groups that are here in Tempe and Scottsdale, angel investor groups like Grand Canyon University, ASU. So we'll talk about that. Are you ready? Is your pitch good enough? Is your message? Do you have enough capital to survive for a few months? Or are you just running on fumes? So you kind of give them an idea of where they are in that journey and how investors are likely to perceive them, because there's risk in every sort of in the process of raising capital, finding distributors, and so I kind of help them prepare them for the likely questions they're going to get and the pushback and the resistance and how you answer those questions. So I'll guide them, consult them. So I guess I'm, in a sense, an accelerator incubator coach to these startups, and it's been a lot of fun. And then you really find out. You find out the personalities of these founders and whether they're even fundable.
Yeah.
Are they so, connected to that idea that they can't even bend or pivot? Do they have the ability to take advice, or are they just so headstrong that they think they're on the right path? And then those are really difficult, people, and I've worked with in the past. So now I've really learned to kind of find the ones that really match my personality and how we're going to work together. And then, it's for the benefit of them, of the shareholders they brought on, the folks that they've invested in the past, and I'll invest alongside with them as well. And, we'll push through. And then obviously you have the different levels of raising, from the pre-seed to the seed to the bridge round to the Series A, and hope by the time they get in the Series A, they're in revenue and they're able to, scale and have the deal de-risked because they're scaling. They're in the right market and they're getting products sold or services sold. So it's, it's obviously the numbers are difficult. In the startup world, you got to invest in 40 companies. The numbers. You limit your risk because you're a one-off, hotel. But in the startup world, you really got to, from an investing, you got to invest in a lot of companies, and then you got to help guide them along and help incubate them and have them make decisions that benefit the company in the direction they're going. Maybe they have a pivot they have to do because competition came in. And so it's, it's fun, but it's very treacherous, and you just got to help them as much as you can.
Yeah. Cause it is different. You have those people that are trying to, kind of like MedWatch, they're creating a brand, a whole company. Where there's guys like me, it's like, I just once every couple of years or once, I buy 2 or 3 hotels, and do syndication. So it's a very different type of fundraising and different level of risk where, I do the syndications and I don't do the whole Series A and get into the whole
Right.
funding to start a company, I just need, hey, let's do a hotel, keep it for 5 years and sell it, cash out and do it again and do it again and do it again. Instead of this whole lifetime, like the MedWatch company where it could be around for 100 years, right? I mean, or it'll finally
Right.
probably eventually get sold,
Right.
absorbed into a larger company. But talk to us a little bit about which is easier, which is harder. Is it harder to sell if someone has this idea,
Yeah.
or is it harder? I think like, especially if they're not, let's say someone's worked for this tech company and they have this idea and they've gone to this tech company and they're like going, we
Yeah.
don't care about it. So they say, okay, well, I'm going to go to Dan, see if I can raise capital on this idea.
Yes.
How hard is that? I mean, what are some of the things you have to sit down and discuss
It,
with them?
it is hard in that investors have made money in real estate over the years. They've
Mm-hmm.
made money in tech.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to know if you're talking to a real estate investor, they're just real estate. You got to talk to the tech investors that have had exits in the tech world. They know the risk, but they know the reward, and they're in it for the long term, and they have the bug, and they will invest in a lot of companies knowing that handful of them will take off and they'll do another, 50 to 100x sort of return. So you got to find the right investor. That's the hardest part, really. But after you get a feel of which, VC firms, family offices, what categories of investments they like, then you got to find out their timing, and do they have, and they invest each quarter, and they have a certain amount of capital. So it's very, it is challenging, but once you kind of understand, and the folks you built these relationships with, you can kind of point them in the right direction with the founders and get them in the queue. And it's a matter of timing. A lot of folks, here in town, Scottsdale, Phoenix, have made money in the real estate, and very few have made money right on the tech side. And of course, in Silicon Valley or Orange County, you got real estate, but you also, San Diego is MedTech heavy.
Yeah.
So that's where a lot of investment capital is, where you talk to 10 VC firms, and they're all going to talk to you because you're MedTech and you're trying to solve a big problem like diabetes, or you're solving a problem where you're testing infants on their DNA and looking for genetic defects. That's another company, For Genomics, FORE Genomics, that have the first to market testing infants for about 550 genetic defects. And they have a whole protocol that is then associated with that genetic defect to help, the parents and the medical provider kind of know what to plan for with this, if this gene does express that particular genetic defect. So they're the first to market in that category. Very exciting. And you got, one of the big hospital chains here that has 5,000 births a month. I was connected to the top, individual in that, in the company that deals with the births. And we're going to put together, talk to them about why not have genetic testing on every single birth. That's $60,000 a year, $1,500 per test. You can retest it for a small amount of money for each and every year to the child's 18. That would be a great value add.
So what is the idea of doing this genetic testing? Is it looking for predispositions?
Yes.
Is that what you're doing?
Early detection.
Early detection.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can really, because I think a lot of times a child hits 6, 7, 8 years old and they're like going, why in the world are they always sick or always this? And
Totally.
Regular doctors, they don't know anything. They're just, I don't know, give them this, give them this.
They're trying to solve a problem. So this is the company, For Genomics, is trying to prevent or at least identify the problem before it happens, if it does express itself because of epigenetics, because of diet, and the environment, stress, whatever, then that gene is expressed, that defect is there, and all of a sudden they know how to treat it, and they're not letting it run for. I was born with asthma. I mean, uncle had asthma, but I was allergic to everything. My parents didn't know I was allergic till I was 14 years old, and I'd been suffering from, athletic induced asthma, to the dog, to the oak tree, to the mold in the house that we found out that was there many, many years later. So
yeah,
I suffered because of that, but it would have been nice to have had a genetic test that would have shown that, because oh gosh, this gene here, expresses itself as asthma.
mm-hmm.
It should be a national policy. There's 3.3 million births from 3.6 last year. Why are we sending $65 billion to Ukraine to blow people up? I mean, we should spend 3.3 million births at $1,500 is what, $300 million
Yeah.
worth of testing to test, and do that every single year.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Anyway, that I would love for that to be policy. And how do I help the company do that? You got to talk to legislators here. You got to get to the national level, get to Washington, knock on doors, and say this should be a national policy.
Are any of those companies still raising funds, or are they still looking, or are they are they up and running?
Or Genomics is up and running. They have sales.
Mm-hmm.
They have they just contracted with a South Korean lab, is in San Diego, and they love their technology. Mm-hmm. They're going to license it to all of Asia, and they're about the cutting edge technology for births and finding diseases before they happen. So it's that just happened 2-3 weeks ago. I got introduced to the CEO, just had a dinner. I hosted a dinner for him with about 13, 14 people. A lot of great feedback from people that said, wow, and some folks that couldn't make it. I scheduled, Zoom calls yesterday, actually, and they're like, this is really what we've been waiting for. So it's just all timing. And I feel like he's hit the sweet spot. It's got to get out there. And if we can get to the national level and get every single birth to just be automatic, it gets tested, or if you want it, of course, if you don't want it, you just opt out. But it should be a no-brainer for this country to do that, to be on the most advanced cutting-edge technology in the world. And, we're not pre-testing for genetic defects, which would, again, it's about lowering healthcare costs in the future. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, exactly. So it lower insurance costs, and it helps the corporations. It helps the government. With the Medicare, Medicaid. So yeah. But you know what? That's logic, right? And when's the last time Washington did logic? It's hit or miss. Back on the investor side, what have you seen now? The upheaval. There's wars. The inflation, the economy. There's still people out there investing. Have you seen it? Is it harder? Is it? Are they being more choosy?
Yeah.
What's the flavor of the investors now?
So if you just look at the data and you look at the amount of money raised last year in startups, it was an all-time low. You look at the companies that went IPO last year on the NASDAQ, it was super weak market on IPO. So capital formation is been not robust for sure. There's more money out there than there are good deals, and you find that out from talking to VCs, family offices. Mm-hmm. The other challenge is to raise money from 0 to 10 million is so difficult because the risk is so high there. Obviously, the returns are the most at that point in time. Mm-hmm. And it seems like, all the conversations I've had with funding sources and family offices and just getting feedback from companies that, they say, wait, when you get to revenue and you need $10 million and you'll be a good fit for us, but, don't call us until then. So that's the challenge. And it's a lot of the investing in the startups is really a passion. It's a passion for the investor. It's a space that they get, that they like. You're trying to make a difference in the world, whether you're testing for genetic defects or you're trying to bend the curve on diabetes in particular, or another company, Blink Frames, out of Orange County. Blink Frames won the best ocular technology last year. They have little cameras in the back of the lenses here, the frames I'm saying. it's not, you're looking that way, like a Google or a, you know, Apple glasses. It's not looking out. It's looking in to look at your eyes, to measure your eyes, to measure the, for myopia. It'll measure screen time. It'll send a message to the parents to say the kid's been on this, his computer screen or phone for 6 hours, right? And it'll show the curvature of the eye over time, and it's doing continuous pictures of the eye and then creating a database and then measuring that and then providing the data for the doctor to see or the parents. And he's going to the pediatric world, and there's 1,000 pediatricians in the country that treat myopia. And one of the first ones to use the glasses, the blank frames, was Dr. Wooten here, Allison Wooten. And she's got 4 clinics, and I knew her, connected to her with the founder of Blink Frames, Josh Park, and a match made in heaven. So now she's going to invite him to her national conference of optometrists, ophthalmologists, and eye surgeons, and I hope he'll blow up his whole company.
Yeah. So well, there you go. I mean, that's what it is. It's kind of like the matchmaker.
Yes, exactly.
Between founders and the investors. So before I let you go, is there anything before we get into how people can find you? Is there anything that I did not cover that you would like to enlighten our audience with?
Yes. If you were to listen to my podcasts, any number of the episodes on CapitalFit, we're talking about your health, your mindset, prayer, meditation. To live the best life every single day that you can live, you got to wake up like you, positive mindset. What David Bayer, he's got a great podcast called The Changed Mind. David Bayer, great guy. Found him when I was in Dublin over on a solo trip, just kind of, jumping in the cool ocean and just getting my head cleared. He popped up somehow on Spotify and listened to several. It's been phenomenal. He talks about mindset, and then he calls it the morning dump. The morning mind dump.
There you go. Not the other kind of morning dump.
No. Well, he says, get rid of the negativity when you wake up. Open your mind up, because you'll attract positive things during the day. Things will happen better. Serendipity happens. The right people come to you because you have an open, positive mindset. I think that's really, really key. And the second key is, I'm 58. I've never felt better. I'm in the best shape I've been in years. And it's really because of fasting and going keto and, did a whole kind of broth and egg, I hate to call it diet, but I practiced limiting the food with just beef broth and eggs for a week. I think I lost 5 pounds. I feel phenomenally energetic, clear of mind. Obviously, alcohol, we all enjoy, a little bit of alcohol. If you can limit the alcohol, or, what Gary Brecka talks about on his podcast and on his Instagram, he says, if you're gonna do one kind of alcohol, just do tequila. It's keto. It won't spike your insulin. So now I'm on this insulin lower, at least maintaining your insulin, not spiking it throughout the day with different foods and carbs. So I think that's just being mindful of that every day. Read Rick Jacoby's book, Unglued, unhyphened glued on Amazon. If you're in town here on October 30th, we'd love to have you at a book signing at Fogo de Chao. We'll have about 35
I'll
people.
be there.
Yes. I had a friend send me a text. She was riding a bike at the gym. His picture, Rick's book, is there. And she says, oh my gosh, this has changed my life. And she's already super fit. But we all deal with inflammation here and there, but we don't think that drinking that zero calorie energy drink from Costco with aspartame or the other sucralose, genetically modified, manufactured 0 calorie sugar replacement, the body still reacts to it in a negative way. You still get inflammation and you just think you're in great shape, and yet you're still, and I'm like, well, now, and whether it's pretzels and just, processed foods and you don't realize it till you read it and go, oh my gosh. And then how do you fix it? Stem cells, or you just get rid of the source of the inflammation. So that's really my message to anybody. My podcast is what is your wealth without your health?
Hmm.
You're in great health. You've really led a great life, and you're a great example of that. My dear friend, Dr. Jacoby, and many of the guests on my show are great examples of having health in their later years. They've created the wealth, they've paid attention to their health, and now they're living a great life. So I think that's the secret.
There it is.
Yeah.
How can people find you?
CapitalFit.us, Dan at CapitalFit.us would be the easiest. Of course, my phone number is on my website as well,
There you go.
and my calendar link. We have, I do social media, so Instagram, Facebook, and then of course LinkedIn's great. I have my link tree there to get a hold of me, Daniel Barnard, AAMS, which stands for Accredited Asset Management Specialist, AAMS. I was a financial advisor for 25 years, so that was one of the designations I did get. And experience kind of trumps it all. So I had 25 years of experience, and it's a lot of fun. So I enjoy the process of wealth creation, and I enjoy keeping super fit, mind, body, and helping others like you do with your activities with Dream City. So in helping folks that need help, you need a helping hand. That's really important. I think that gives us purpose, not just the accumulation of wealth, which is great, but you got to use it for betterment of humankind. So that's where I'll end it.
Yeah. Well, it's great advice. And everybody, Dan Barnard, CapitalFit.us. Thank you, Bud, for coming on. And this concludes another episode of the Richer Geek Podcast. Take care, everybody.
Appreciate it, Mike.